Welcome to this tutorial on using IntelliJ IDE's remote debugging feature. If you are a Java developer looking to optimize your debugging process, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll explore what remote debugging is, when to use it, and how to set it up step by step. Let's start by defining remote debugging. Remote debugging allows us to connect our IDE to an application running on another machine or a different process. This is particularly useful in situations where our code is running in environments like servers or containers. Before we dive into the setup, let's ensure you have IntelliJ IDE installed. The remote debugging feature is available in both the Community and Ultimate editions. To demonstrate remote debugging, we'll set up two applications: a local application that will debug and a remote application running on a different JVM. The remote application can be running on a separate server or in a Docker container. Let's create a simple Java application that we will run remotely. First, we'll make sure we have a Maven project in IntelliJ IDE. If you haven't already created one, go ahead and do that now. Here's a simple configuration for a Maven project. Open your terminal and create a new directory for the project, navigate to it, and run the following command. This command will create a new Maven project. Once the project is ready, navigate to the project folder in IntelliJ IDE. Now let's update the app.java file with a simple implementation. Open src/main/java/com/example/remotedebug/app.java and replace the content with this basic structure. This is a very simple application that adds two numbers. Now we need to set up our remote application to be able to accept the debugger connection. To enable remote debugging, we need to pass specific JVM arguments to our Java application. These arguments will allow our local IDE to connect to the remote application. In the above command, we are telling the JVM to listen for a debugger connection on port 5005. You can choose any available port. Now let's run our Java application with these options. At this point, our remote application should be running, and it's waiting for a debugger to connect. Now let's move to the IntelliJ IDE to set up the remote debugging configuration. In IntelliJ IDE, navigate to the Run menu at the top and select Edit Configurations. Here we will add a new remote configuration. Click on the plus icon to add a new configuration. Select Remote. Now, configure the remote application settings. Replace remote_var or hostname with the actual IP address or hostname of the machine where your Java application is running. Typically, if you're running this locally, it will be localhost. Once you've configured the settings, click OK to save the configuration. We are now ready to start remote debugging. With the remote application running and the configuration set up, click on the Debug button in IntelliJ IDE next to your remote configuration. If everything is set up correctly, you should see the debugger connecting to your remote application. Now let's add a breakpoint to the add method to inspect the values of the variables. To add a breakpoint, click in the gutter area next to the line number where you want to pause execution. You'll see a red dot marking the breakpoint. Now let's run our application again. When it executes the add method, IntelliJ IDE will pause the execution at our breakpoint. You'll be able to inspect the variables in the debug panel. In the debug panel, you will see the values of it and be in the variables view, and you can step over to see the result of the addition. As you step through the code, you'll notice how easy it is to examine the state of your application and troubleshoot issues in real time. We can also utilize features like evaluate expression to run arbitrary code at the current state of execution. This is helpful for testing small snippets of code while your application is running. To use evaluate expression, click on the Evaluate Expressions button in the Debug panel and type in any expression. This can also include method calls. This is incredibly powerful as it gives you real-time insights without modifying your code just to test out certain conditions. As we wrap up this tutorial, here are a few best practices for remote debugging. 1. Ensure proper network permissions for the port used for debugging. 2. Use specific IPs instead of broad hostnames when possible. 3. Clean up and secure your remote debugging setup after use to avoid unwanted connections. And that concludes our tutorial on remote debugging with IntelliJ IDE. I hope you found this walkthrough helpful and that you can now confidently remote debug your Java applications. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more programming tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and happy coding!